1230 KTRF and 93.3 FM. Thursday morning, 9:45, and that means time for our Hometown Heroes on KTRF. Hometown Heroes brought to you by Oakley Quilting Supply, by Roxbury Truck Repair, and by Marco. Joining us on the show today is Thief River Falls Fire Co-Chief Rick Beyer. Rick, thanks for coming in this morning.
Well, thanks for having me here, Mark.
Great to have you in. And today we're going to find out a little bit about Rick and also about co-fire chief. So I want to talk a little bit about that. First, Rick, if you would, tell us a little bit about Rick Beyer.
Born here, raised here, graduated from Lincoln in 1991. My mother lives here, got a brother and a sister that live here. 3 kids. The youngest one just graduated this year. That's pretty much about it.
So a hometown boy.
Yep. Always been here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Did you always want to get into firefighting?
No, it did. It most certainly didn't start out that way. I think that's kind of the path that a lot of people end up. They just kind of fall into it, and that's kind of what happened to me. I went to school for something totally unrelated to fire, and I got into the fire service in 1999 as a volunteer. And after I was on for a couple of years, I decided that I just kind of fell in love with it, and I thought I'd really like to do this for a living. So kind of changed my path a little bit, and then I was fortunate enough to actually get a job here in my hometown doing what I want to do. So
it is a full-time position then as a firefighter.
Correct.
And
Yep.
as a chief. It's actually a co-chief. And why the co-chiefs here in Thief River Falls?
Well, that's kind of a long story that we probably don't have enough time to cover, but it started probably 20-some years ago after the full-time chief at that time had retired. So instead of putting in a 9-to-5 chief, they decided to split the duties between a couple different guys that were working, and that way they could keep more guys on staff in the rotation at the time. So it works. Sometimes it may not be the ideal situation, but we make it work, and it actually works pretty well for us. So.
You've been co-chiefs now for a while, so you got to be getting used to it and finding out maybe this is a good thing?
Yeah. There again, there's pros and cons to both sides of it. Me and Marty, I think we work well together. Mm-hmm. We're really on the same page on most everything that we're thinking about, and so that's where it does work really well.
Now, because you have co-fire chiefs, do you have an assistant chief still?
We do not.
Okay.
No.
Probably don't need one if you got 2 of you. 2 heads to the monster, right?
Right, and that's kind of how we geared a little bit as a chief, assistant chief type of deal. I mean, we're still technically both co-chiefs, but we do some different duties.
Okay. Rick Beyer is our guest today on Hometown Heroes on KTRF. What is your job? You know, fire chief, we think of fire chief, we think of firefighting, but it's more than just firefighting. Kind of a synopsis of what is a fire chief's job?
Well, for us, being a fire chief, it doesn't change a whole lot because we're a combination department. So we have 7 full-time guys and 25 volunteers. And so we're minimally staffed full-time wise. There's somebody always there 24/7, 365 days a year. But I could be doing truck maintenance or cleaning a toilet one day and on the end of a nozzle fighting a fire 5 minutes later. When you think of a fire chief, you think of the guy sitting at a desk doing paperwork all day long. Or it's not like that for us. There is that side of it now, though. The administrative side that, we got to worry about budget stuff and time cards and personnel and things of that nature. So
you do have to do that, but you also have very much the hands-on.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. And how many firemen do you have total again? You had 7 full-time, you said, right?
7 full-time and 25 volunteers, but some of the full-time guys cross over to the volunteer side too, say such as myself. I'm still a volunteer too. And so in that regards, I think we have 28 total members on the fire department.
Okay. Rick Beyer, our guest today, Hometown Heroes. We want to find out what is the best part of his job. What is his job like out? How tense can it be when they're fighting fires or out saving lives? We're going to ask that of Rick in just a moment. Our Hometown Heroes brought to you in part by Oakley Quilting Supply. For July, they have 25% off seasonal fabrics. That includes Christmas, Easter, Halloween, and fall. They also have 25% off all quilt kits. Oakley Quilting Supply carries many quilting lines that include Moda, Henry Glass, Quilting Treasures, and many more. And they're adding new fabrics all the time, too. So stop in on Main Street in Oakley and see all that they have to offer. Oakley Quilting Supply for all your quilting needs. 8 to 5. They're open Monday through Friday and Saturday, 9 to noon. And, of course, Roxbury Truck Repair, a complete truck shop here, truck and trailer maintenance and repair at Roxbury Truck Repair, and also Marco, communication tools, copies, and IT services and maintenance. Check them out at marconet.com. Rick Beyer, our guest on Hometown Heroes on KTRF. All right, before I ask you about the best and some of the more dangerous parts, how much of an impact do you think a fire department has on their local community?
I think it can have a lot of impact, but the other way around, the community has a big impact on the fire department too, such as when they support us through fundraising efforts and things like that, that allows us to go out and buy the equipment a lot of times necessary to turn around and support the community.
That isn't always in the budget, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So then we have an impact on the community with the proper tools and equipment. It kind of goes back and forth. You know, they support us, and when they're in need, we support them.
Okay. What's the best part of your job as a firefighter and fire chief?
I'd say the best part, a lot of it is dealing with the public's side of it. I'd say the kids. You know, when you you bring a fire truck somewhere for some event going on, and we pull the hose out and set up the little window for the kids to shoot at. I mean, their eyes light up and they get a big smile on their face, and
might be the first start of a new fireman or a fire person.
They just love it. You know, they're all smiles and taking pictures, and so that's probably one of the best parts about it.
Okay, toughest or worst part about your job?
There again, possibly dealing with kids in a bad situation. I don't like to hear the pager go off for like a car accident. Mm-hmm. To me, I'd rather fight a fire any day than a car accident, because usually a car accident means somebody's probably hurt, and sometimes bad. And so you gotta, when you hear the page go off for a car accident, you prepare yourself mentally for the worst, but you're hoping for the best. And I always get nervous, like when it's prom time and things like that are going on, and the pager
big
goes
nights
off.
for the kids.
Yeah, I absolutely hate it.
Yeah.
It's very nerve-wracking. So.
No doubt about it. Rick Beyer, our guest. Okay, a fireman. If there are young kids out there, and when you're really little, everybody wants to be a policeman or a fireman. I mean, that's kind of how a lot of people grew up. But if they're getting a little more serious, they're in teenage years or whatnot, and they're thinking, how do I start to get into it? What would you suggest to somebody young who wants to get in this field?
There is 2-year technical colleges. There's one in East Grand Forks that you can go to. It's a 2-year tech program. Or you can go a lot of routes. Most people go, like I went, I joined the local fire department, and they trained me. And through that, you end up with the same exact certification in the end. You still have to be certified through the state of Minnesota, Firefighter 1, Firefighter 2. It's just at the tech college, you're going to get a little more in-depth on certain things. But that's where you got to start.
Yeah. And the interest, a lot of hands-on stuff for firefighting, isn't it?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And finally, the big question that everybody really wants to know, do you really slide down a pole when the fire alarm goes off?
Not anymore.
Not anymore, huh?
They used to. Matter of fact, the pole that used to be in the fire hall is out at the historical village.
So no more pole.
No more pole. They kind of deemed that dangerous a little bit.
Which is, but it still has a lot of history behind it, doesn't
Right.
it?
Plus, like at night, we sleep down in the basement, so it's tough to slide down a pole when you're in the basement.
That's true. You'd have to climb up the pole, and that'd just take more time, wouldn't it?
Right.
All right. Rick, so appreciate you stopping in. Anything you want to mention to the folks out there listening?
Maybe just a few safety tips.
Sure.
You know, we like to promote fire alarms, you know, smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors. Wear your seatbelts, buckle up. I've seen it firsthand where it saves lives. Getting back to the smoke detectors, buy the ones with the 10-year batteries now, so you don't have to worry about them down the road. And like I said, the carbon monoxide detectors, got to have them. They definitely save lives too.
All right. Any questions? They can get a hold of you guys at the fire hall?
They can call us anytime.
Awesome. Rick Beyer, the Thief River Falls Fire Co-Chief. And maybe later in our programming, we'll talk to his other half with Marty Semenko. Rick, thanks for coming in. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mark.
Rick Beyer, our hometown hero today on Hometown Heroes, brought to you by Oakley Quilting, by Roxbury Truck Repair, and Marco on KTRF.